We're going to talk some politics now with two pros and great friends of mine, Joe Concha, Fox News contributor, and Joe's latest book, Progressively Worse, Why Today's Democrats Ain't Your Daddy's Donkeys. And I know privately that he's cooking up another bestseller. Cooking it up. And my great pal David Webb, Fox News contributor and a terrific Sirius XM talk show host. Gentlemen, welcome. Thanks for doing this. Dave Webb, let me ask you. I want to talk, yes, you're very kind to do this on this weekend. David, there are a lot of things I want to talk about, but I'm just watching Fox News and our reporter Grady Trimble. Trump is making hay out in Detroit with Arab Americans. And there's a lot about this. I talked about it on the TV show last night, and I see news today. Some of them, the mayor of one of the towns, I think the mayor of Hamtramck, came out in favor of Arab Americans. Is there hay in that, David Webb? I mean, is that kind of one of these late starting endorsement situations that might give them an extra little half a point someplace? Hello? Oh, did we lose David? All right, we'll try to get him back. Hello?
Larry, can you hear me okay?
I can now. I got you now.
All right. My apologies.
Okay.
For a certain reason, not all the Arab Americans in Dearborn, Michigan, surrounding areas, frankly, in America, are Muslims. So Christian population as well as a Muslim population, and not all of the Muslim population is bound to the leftists and the pro-terrorist supporters in America, not just in America, but frankly in the Middle East. So just like, say, the black population gets painted as this monolithic bloc, and Democrats would want you to believe that, the fact is that the Trump campaign knows that they're not, and that's why he's getting a lot of support.
So you think this stuff is for real? I mean, he can pick up a couple votes because that may come down to a couple votes.
Well, it's not only that, but it's also, as you know, Larry, driving the perception, something Joe and I have talked about, right? Perception is reality, and it can help drive other segments of voting blocks to look and say, hang on a second, he's not treating us all as one. Maybe we ought to pay attention to our interests. And I think it's important in politics, it always is, to drive that we're here for all of you. Trump talks about all Americans. Kamala Harris tries to divide Americans into blocks of people that have to do as she says, whereas Trump says, I'm doing this for all Americans.
Good. Joe Concha, other stuff, I'm a little troubled. I really don't want Ms. Trump talking about Liz Cheney. Nobody knows who Liz Cheney is. It's all a waste of time. I understand, you have to respond to the craziness of a guy like Mark Cuban who says Trump doesn't like, strong, intelligent women. But the strong, intelligent women from Trump will answer themselves, as they have. I don't know if you saw, he had Sarah Huckabee Sanders on the TV show last night, and Kayleigh McEnany, and they're all doing the job. I want them to stay on the border and the economy, Joe. And, yesterday's jobs report, that was the worst. That was a dismal jobs report, the worst in 3 years. Manufacturing jobs cratering, private sector jobs cratering, native-born American jobs cratering. The whole thing's coming down. Only thing going up, of course, is government jobs because of all their spending, which caused the inflation. I mean, to me, Joe Concha, that's where he needs to be, that plus the border in the last 3 days. What you thinking?
That should be the laser focus, Larry. Economy, wages, inflation, and the border. And instead, I understood the point he was making about Liz Cheney. That was basically the same argument that liberals have been making, anti-war comments they've been making since Vietnam, basically saying politicians sit back in Washington and send our young men and women to die in pointless wars like the Iraq War that didn't result in weapons of mass destruction being found. So I got the point, but he's got to understand that this is not an honest media that's going to play the whole clip. They'll just play the one clip and just say that, okay, now he's calling for a firing squad on a political opponent. And that's just the way it's always been with him. But, yeah, that needs to be the focus, no question. But still, I don't know if it matters all that much. I think at this point, Larry, I can't see anybody being undecided, going back and forth between such bold contrast between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. And I don't look at polls anymore, Larry. I look at early voting, and oh boy, I mean, what we're seeing in Nevada, a 5-point lead early voting. He's doing exceptionally well in Wisconsin, especially in GOP counties, while Milwaukee, Democratic County, continues to lag. He's doing well in Pennsylvania, where Democrats are up 400,000 votes, yes, but they were leading by 1.1 million going into the 2020 election. So that's a big delta there. And even in our lovely state of New Jersey, we are seeing Republicans winning the early vote by 15,000 votes. Now, I don't know if it holds, but if it's a close race here, that doesn't bode well for Kamala Harris in neighboring Pennsylvania. That I do know.
New Jersey, I love that joke. New Jersey's my November surprise pick. You know, remember the guy ran for governor. Nobody ever heard of him. He nearly knocked off Phil Murphy, whatever. Yeah, I mean, that kind of thing. David Webb, you heard Joe Concha giving us a good shot of optimism. What do you think? Early voting, or what else is out there, David Webb? What are you looking at?
Well, I agree with Joe that if it holds, and that's the key to this, if it holds, when you look at the fact that over 60 million Americans have already cast their votes, but then you break it out by the states that are outperforming, where Democrats are underperforming by 6 to 8 points across the board. Certainly the numbers vary, and Republicans about 6 to 8 points to the positive. That's a trend that reverses past voting trends with early voting. And there's another part of this. We're down overall, or we're probably closer to even. Beginning of the week, we were down about 2% versus 2020 in nationwide early voting. But where does that depression in voting come from? If you see the surge in Georgia, for example, in Tennessee and other states like that, in Nevada, what you see are Democrats likely not showing up, and they tend not to show up on Election Day. So I'm with Joe. I'm looking at this from a data perspective, from what the trends are like, from the cultural, the changes, and I'm not eliminating the Gen Z vote like a lot of people in the media are, because Gen Zers are getting tired and have gotten tired of being told you have to accept everything we shove down your throat. And a lot of them are going, I just want to do better, as good or better than my parents.
You know, I'm looking at the Tony Fabrizio memo. Fabrizio, of course, is Trump's lead pollster. Now, he's also one of the very best in the business. And comparison, this was 5 days from election in 2020 versus 2024. So last time versus this time. Nationwide, Trump has improved his position by 7.9 percentage points. It's incredible. Arizona plus 2.5, Georgia 2.8, Michigan 7.8, North Carolina 1.6, Nevada 4.5, Pennsylvania 5.1, Wisconsin 6.5. In other words, where Trump was in 2020 versus where he is today, using the Real Clear Politics and average. I mean, it's huge increases. And, Joe, I don't, we're all sick of polls. I get that. Most of these polls, public polls, media polls, they're all weighted heavily towards Democrats and so forth. Everybody's trying to say it's a toss-up. I'm not sure it's a toss-up, Joe. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to be a big shot, but I'm just not sure, because I think the internal polling, by the way, the TIPS poll, the Tip Insights poll, Raghavan Mayer, which is a very accurate poll, is making the same point that Fabrizio is making, showing how much Trump has gained over the past 4 years. So that's got to mean something, Joe.
It means everything, Larry. I am extremely bullish on this election just based on exactly what you laid out. Because if in 2020, when the country was miserable, COVID, everything shut down, Biden comes along, he successfully portrays himself as a moderate, and maybe things will just get back to normal, no drama, Obama kind of years, and Trump has to deal with all that, all those headwinds. And despite that, he only loses by 44,000 votes in 3 states, Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin. If they go the other way, he would have been the president again. So you're telling me that Kamala Harris, who is an infinitely worse candidate than Joe Biden, is going to gain votes more than Joe based on the conditions that they were in 2020, again, COVID, versus what they are now, where this is her record that she has to defend. And then David talked about it before, but it's worth expanding on. If you are hemorrhaging the black vote, as Kamala Harris is, and you're hemorrhaging the Hispanic Latino vote, as Kamala Harris is, and you don't have the backing of rank-and-file union in the Teamsters, U.S. Steel, United Auto Workers, and the culinary industry, I don't know how she wins. I don't see it. And if he's tied or leading nationally, that you're looking at a landslide. Every polling model shows that. So I'm with you. This isn't a 50-50 race. I think it's absolutely his to lose. And we're seeing it in the early voting. I'm bullish, Larry.
You know, David Webb, just on the, I liked him in the garbage truck. Okay, that I liked a lot. And I liked him talking about, you know, how you got to love America in order to lead America. Now that was really good messaging. And look, and then he kept his garbage truck jersey on, or whatever that thing is called, at one of the rallies. Now that I liked a lot.
You know, it's beyond that. It's what people did with it, right, Larry? By the way, it is slimming. He looks pretty good. Maybe I ought to consider that sometime. But it's what people did with it. Trump, remember Trump, the media figure. We all know the guy that could, not just The Apprentice, but somebody who knew how to stand in front of a crowd and get their attention. That's important. It's not just about trolling, but it's about reflecting the frustration of the American people. And whether it was the irredeemables, the deplorables, the Neanderthals, all of the things, fascist, white supremacists, all the things that people in America have been called by these elitist politicians who look down on them, Trump turns around and says, hang on a second, how about we just realize that you're regular folks trying to get ahead, trying to live your American dream, and then people just picked it up on their own. They were wearing them to the polls, all over the place. It's when people pick that up, and that's where I'm absolutely with Joe and those that say there is a scenario for a landslide here, because the landslide is if all these people follow through and go in and say, I'm done with this. I'm sick and tired of you. You know, remember Network? I can't.
Yes.
I'm tired. Yes. I can't take this anymore. And it's okay to be me. And that frustration goes even beyond politics. We're sick of our culture being destroyed, told that men should be in women's bathrooms, that boys should be playing in girls' sports, and all of this. And the American people are saying, hang on a second, the tail's wagging the dog here, and it's the tail that's the problem, not the dog.
All right, fellas, let me take a quick break. This is terrific stuff. Infused with optimism here 3 days before the election. Joe Concha, Fox News contributor, David Webb, Fox News contributor. I'm Kudlow. We'll be right back with much more.
Larry Kudlow. From Wall Street to the White House, this is the Larry Kudlow Show.
We're talking politics with two of the best. Joe Concha, Fox News contributor. His latest book, Progressively Worse, Why Today's Democrats Ain't Your Daddy's Donkeys. And David Webb, also Fox News contributor and Sirius XM talk show host. You know, Joe, I don't see a lot of people sitting around their kitchen tables worrying about the cost of a new home or a new car or their paycheck in general. I don't really see them reviewing the biographies of Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler for some reason. I just don't think that enters into the conversation around the kitchen table. But I know that Kamala Harris would love to distract as much as possible so she doesn't have to talk about the Biden-Harris record of failures. In fact, she doesn't have to talk about anything. I mean, I think that's the deal here. They're throwing mud in order to stay off their record. But I don't think it's going to work. I just don't think so. But what do you think?
I think the most unintentionally hilarious scenario that I saw this past week, Larry, was the media shoving down our throat for 3 news cycles, 3 days, that a comedian who told a joke at a rally 3 hours before Donald Trump came on is going to change people's votes, where they're going to say, yeah, my grocery prices are so way too high. But, that guy told a joke, and especially after 9 years of Donald Trump being called everything in the book. And now you think one joke from a comedian that isn't even associated with him is going to change things? They actually try to make us buy that. And that's where we are. You're right. No one's buying it. The conditions on the ground are still the same. They may have put Kamala Harris in there, but it's the same lemon of a car with a different coat of paint. People still feel inflation. They still hate what's going on at the border. They still don't feel that crime is low enough, especially in major cities. And they see these foreign wars just endlessly going on. None of that has changed. That's why I don't think many votes have changed at all since Kamala Harris came into the ticket. In fact, she's repelled, as we said, certain voting blocks like blacks and like Hispanics.
Yeah, Joe Biden might have been a better candidate. David Webb, what's so amusing about the garbage story that Joe Concha is referring to, the garbage story. So Joe Biden says all Trump supporters are garbage. The White House tried to change the transcript, and lo and behold, David, we've seen the first revolt of the stenographers, the professional career staff stenographers who said, you can't do that. You can't change an apostrophe, and because it goes into the National Archives. And so really, I don't know if anybody's following this story, but it is sort of amusing if you think that the stenographers beat up Joe Biden. I mean, I just kind of love that.
Look, they can all put down their calligraphy pens now and take a moment to take a breath and a break. But, I'm with you. It's amusing on one end, but it also shows the hubris of the Biden administration. I watched the presser with KJP, the White House press secretary, after that, trying to find a way to nuance how they try an apostrophe. But in fact, they're the ones that have gone after Donald Trump on the Presidential Records Act. Unfairly, they've targeted him, the DOJ, the Biden DOJ. Biden has violated that. Others have violated that. And they haven't been charged with all the things. Yet they want us to believe that it's okay for them to violate it openly and clearly. Now, it's not the biggest issue. Bigger issues are, well, there were only 12,000 jobs in the last month report when they expected 113,000, or the fact that there are constant revisions down in the jobs performance, which proves the truth in what Trump says and what we know as Americans versus the lies that we're being told. And this is where the American people, kind of back to the garbage thing, they look at it and they go, stop it. We've had it. We've had enough. And the American people are holding on to that, not just against government, like when Trump said they're not working for you, but now they're seeing it on full display when they work against you openly with big tech, against a presidential candidate, against the January 6th detainees, whether they were guilty of some crime or not. They're simply not even being given a fair process. Look at what they're doing. Now Elon Musk, who dared let the truth be told, is the enemy of the people, and yet Mark Cuban, the beta male billionaire, is supposed to be the hero that props up Kamala Harris, the empty, vacuous, and inserted candidate. People see this.
They do see it. Joe Concha, the Elon Musk factor, nobody knows how to handicap that, but he has become a rock star and the center of attention, and he's almost canvassing door to door in Pennsylvania. It's really quite remarkable what he's doing. I bumped into his mother, actually. She was at Fox being interviewed because she switched her, well, because she's Elon's mother, but she switched her registration from Democrat to Republican. But, the Elon Musk factor, I think that's a huge plus for Trump. I think that one picks up younger people. That one picks up people that are worried about government spending, and Washington, D.C.'s got to be cut down to size. I don't know how to handicap Elon Musk, but I think he's going to bring a lot of votes, Joe.
I think the team in general, Larry, to your larger point, is what some people are voting for. I saw this great interview where one person said, yeah, Trump turns me off sometimes by his demeanor and the things he says, but I'm voting for this team.
Yeah.
My team
Yeah.
is J.D. Vance, right? It's Elon Musk. It's Tulsi Gabbard, former 2020 Democratic presidential candidate, who actually got more delegates than Kamala Harris did. Just a little trivia question there. And then RFK Jr., same thing. So this coalition that he brings in, that team that he puts out on stage, appeals to people that otherwise may not consider voting or maybe didn't vote Republican in the past.
Good
and you're
point.
right, that government accountability.
I got to jump out.
go.
But you're right. Trump's got a new team around him. It's fascinating. Joe Concha, Fox News. David Webb, Fox News. Thank you, gentlemen. Terrific stuff. Appreciate it.